In the 2000 film American Psycho, the main character Patrick Bateman works in mergers and acquisitions at a Wall Street firm. Throughout the movie, people misinterpret his job title. They hear mergers and acquisitions as murders and executions. It was supposed to be satire. 26 years later, the joke has become description. In 2025, Wall Street completed $3.4 trillion in mergers and acquisitions. That is the highest single-year total since 2021. 68 of those deals were worth more than $10 billion each. That is the most $10 billion deals ever recorded in a single year going back to 1980. The average deal size hit $227 million, also a record, and 2026 is projected to break all of those numbers. This is the biggest M&A wave in modern history, and by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what is happening, why it accelerates the wealth gap every single year, who actually benefits, who pays the cost, and what to do if your employer becomes the next acquisition target. Let me start with what M&A actually is, because the term gets thrown around without explanation. A merger is when two companies combine into one. An acquisition is when one company buys another. The result is the same. You end up with one company instead of two, fewer competitors, fewer headquarters, fewer executive teams, and almost always, fewer workers. Wall Street investment banks like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan run these deals. They charge advisory fees of $30 to $50 million per major deal. In 2025, those banks collectively earn tens of billions of dollars just from M&A advisory work. The bigger the wave, the bigger the fees. M&A is the single most profitable line of business in modern banking. Then there is private equity. Firms like Blackstone, Apollo, and KKR use a different playbook. They borrow large amounts of money, buy companies, restructure them aggressively, and sell them 3 to 7 years later for a profit. They are currently sitting on about $3 trillion in what is called dry powder, money raised from investors that has not been spent yet. All of it has to be deployed within a few years or it gets returned. That deadline is what is creating the current acquisition frenzy. Here are the actual deals that closed or were announced in the last 12 months. Paramount acquired Warner Brothers for $170 billion. Netflix acquired Warner Brothers Discovery Studios and HBO Max for $72 billion. Union Pacific is acquiring Norfolk Southern for $85 billion. Chevron acquired Hess for $53 billion. Electronic Arts is going private in a $55 billion deal. Nippon Steel acquired US Steel for $14.9 billion. Each one of these deals creates dozens of new billionaires and hundreds of newly unemployed workers. This is where the joke from American Psycho stops being a joke. The most comprehensive study of what happens to workers after a private equity buyout was published by Harvard Business School and the University of Chicago. They tracked 2.5 million workers across 3,600 companies that underwent leveraged buyouts. The findings were brutal. On average, 4.4% of jobs disappear in the 2 years after a private equity takeover. Wages for the remaining workers drop by 1.7%. In public to private buyouts, where a publicly traded company gets taken private, the job loss number jumps to 13%. In divisional carve-outs, where a corporate division gets spun out and sold, 16% of those jobs vanish. The real-world examples are everywhere. Toys R Us was bought by private equity in 2005 and went bankrupt in 2018, eliminating around 30,000 jobs. Sports Authority was acquired by private equity in 2006 and liquidated in 2016, eliminating about 15,000 jobs. Sears, Payless Shoes, Art Van Furniture, Brookstone, Gymboree, all bought by private equity, all gone. Hundreds of thousands of jobs erased to pay back debt the workers never agreed to take on. And here is what the M&A industry will tell you. They will say productivity goes up after these deals. They are technically correct. The same Harvard study found productivity rises about 8% on average after a buyout. But productivity going up while jobs go down means the company is producing more output with fewer workers. The remaining workers are doing more work for less pay. Productivity gains are not value creation, they are wealth transfer. The same amount of work gets done, but the share that goes to workers shrinks, and the share that goes to shareholders and private equity owners expands. Now let me show you who actually benefits from this entire system. The investment banks running the deals collect tens of millions in advisory fees per transaction. The private equity firms collect management fees of about 2% annually on the assets under management, plus 20% of any profits when they sell the company. The senior executives at the acquired company collect what are called golden parachutes, severance packages that often pay tens of millions of dollars when they get pushed out post-deal. Shareholders of the acquired company collect a one-time payout, usually at a premium to the prior stock price. The workers collect a pink slip or a pay cut. Consumers collect higher prices because of reduced competition. Communities collect closed stores, hollowed out tax bases, and abandoned commercial real estate. This is not a side effect of M&A, it is the entire business model. Why is this accelerating right now? 3 reasons. First, the Trump administration's deregulatory push has lowered the antitrust scrutiny that used to block some deals. Second, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed in July 2025 restored several tax benefits that make leveraged buyouts mathematically more profitable, like 100% bonus depreciation and EBITDA-based interest deductibility. Third, the Federal Reserve has been cutting rates, which makes borrowing money for these deals significantly cheaper. Combine cheaper money, friendlier laws, looser regulators, and $3 trillion in dry powder that has to be spent, and you get the M&A supercycle we are now living through. Here is what to actually do. If you work at a company that announces a sale to private equity or a merger with a larger competitor, treat it as a layoff warning. Update your resume that week. Stop putting extra effort into work projects that will not exist in 18 months. Lock in any benefits you have access to. Start aggressively saving cash. The most dangerous period for your job is the 12 to 24 months after the deal closes. The vast majority of buyout-related layoffs happen in that window. If you are looking for a new job, take the M&A pipeline seriously. Industries with heavy private equity activity right now include retail, restaurants, healthcare, software as a service, and increasingly artificial intelligence infrastructure. A startup or mid-sized company in those sectors has higher buyout risk than a stable employer in a less consolidating industry. If you are an investor, the M&A supercycle is bullish for the banks running the deals. Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan are the purest public exposures to this trend. Here is the broader takeaway. For the last 50 years, every wave of M&A has accelerated the concentration of wealth at the top of the economy. The deals are bigger each cycle. The job losses are sharper each cycle. The Bateman joke from 1991 was satire about a fictional psychopath. Now it is just a fact about what M&A actually does to people. But there is one piece of this story I have not told you yet. Because while traditional M&A is brutal, there is a specific structure that private equity firms use that is more extractive than anything else in finance. It is called the leveraged buyout, and it allows a small group of investors to buy a company using mostly the company's own debt, strip its assets, fire its workers, and walk away with hundreds of millions of dollars in fees, regardless of whether the company survives. In the next video, I'm going to show you exactly how leveraged buyouts work, why they should probably be illegal, and the one company that is about to get destroyed by one this year.